Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Pisces, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box. Second link in the description box is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, which is over on the Circle platform. And the third is to the 3-month overviews that I did for each of the signs. So if any of those take your fancy, you know what to do with those links. Right, let's flip the camera and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Pisces, please? Thank you. We have the 6 of Swords in your recent past. Current energy for Pisces, please. Oh, goodness. All right, we've got 2. We've got the 7 of Wands with the 5 of Pentacles. And what's coming towards Pisces, please, for May? We've got the Lovers and we've got the King of Swords. We've got the Strength card at the bottom of the deck. There's a Leo card loitering around for you somewhere. And I think that this this month, I think, represents some sort of turning point for you. And it's not like a sharp left or right hand turn, you know, a 90-degree off in a different direction. It feels like it's something that's been in motion for quite a while. You know, we see the movement there in the 6 of Swords, but there are decisions to be made this month which make plans that you've set in motion be much more real, much more concrete than they have done before. And I think there's something here in this 5 of Pentacles that is prompting that is acting as some sort of catalyst. So let's get some clarifiers out. I'll just give these a little shuffle and then we'll see what it is that we are dealing with. Cock that up. Let's do that again. That's better. Right, why is the 6 of Swords here for Pisces, please? Lord, right. Page of Cups in reverse, Knight of Cups in reverse, and that Queen of Swords. Tell me about the 5 of Pentacles and 7 of Wands. We have Queen of Wands. Nice. The Fool. I like this even more. And we have the Queen of Pentacles. Lots of queens. Tell me about the Lovers and the King of Swords. Strength card is out again. Ooh. Where's that here? Got the Lovers card in reverse. And we've got the 3 of Pentacles in reverse. Interesting. There's the King of Wands. So you are flanked here in the shadow cards by Leo energy. Let me just move these over a little bit so you can see what's going on here. This is quite intriguing. Not least because there's I don't really want to describe it as a flip-flopping energy, but there is something slightly flip-floppy about this Pisces. But it feels like if you feel like you've been flip-flopping around for a while, that is probably about to draw to a conclusion on account of the decisions that you make. Now, I don't want to jump ahead too far because obviously we're going to get to this over here. But I think things feel no. So I was going to say things feel slightly muddy, but I've actually been corrected on that front before I even got the sentence out of my mouth, because it's not that things are muddied. It's that there is a certain amount of a lack of clarity, but there seems to be something that's kind of pulling on you in some sort of direction, right? So we start off with the 6 of Swords, which broadly speaks about movement away from a situation that hasn't been terribly good for you, into calmer waters, right? Whether it's given you anxiety or whether it's been, you know, excessively burdensome, or there's just something about it that's not very good. But one of the things that is quite interesting about this Tarot of the Abyss card is, rather than seeing us sort of traversing from the choppy water to the calm, which is over here, you seem to be going over the choppy water sort of laterally. That's actually a boat with a chap stood in it at the background, if you can just see that there, right? And so, although movement is trying to happen, although you are trying, at least in terms of the energy of the card, to move in a particular direction. What's actually happened is that you seem to have been engaging in this lateral movement here. And I think it's because of what we have down here. So we have the Page of Cups and the Knight of Cups in reverse. Now, obviously, the Knight of Cups is a Pisces card. And so, you know, we can draw in notions of identity and all those sorts of things. But I do feel like for a lot of you, what is needed is to, and I can't believe I'm saying this to a Pisces, right, but it is to kind of crank down the empathy, crank down the understanding, crank down all of those emotional responses, those emotional awarenesses of other people that feed into the decisions that you make, right? So this Queen of Swords, when she's in the upright, she's very good at processing information. There's lots of information coming in, but she's very good at passing it very, very quickly and extricating what it is that she needs to know from it, right? The truth of a situation, you know, what is important, what is not, what is sometimes what is true and what is not about a given situation. And although you seem to be trying to move forwards, like this moving sideways feels like you don't quite have all of the answers. You don't quite have, well, in fact, actually, it's probably more accurate to say any of the answers right now. It's just this one foot in front of the other, trying to move forwards and ending up feeling like you're moving sideways no matter what. And the Page of Cups and the Knight of Cups, like I said, they seem to want you to sort of turn down the volume knob on what other people are thinking, other people are feeling, and the influence that other people have on your understanding of a situation that is right in front of you. Because I do think ultimately what you're trying to aim towards is this boat with the person in it here, right? They've got this nice calm sea beyond all of these choppy waves. And no matter how hard you try, it doesn't seem to get any closer. And I think that the emotional awareness that you have of other people is what is bringing in only half of the information that you need. It's almost like you can't hear yourself over the noise of other people's emotional impulses and input, you know, emotional projections, actually. Now, I want to pull up the World Unknown here and just ask for another card, because what we're not trying to do is turn you into someone else, but there are some departures from the usual way that you would do things that are required of you in the here and now to be able to move yourself from where you are to somewhere else, whether that's geographically, physically, materially, or emotionally and spiritually. What is here? I mean, you know, Seven of Pentacles, because it is simply not the right place for you. The Seven of Pentacles for me, it usually talks about situations that are somewhat suboptimal. I mean, often they can be situations where we know that there's something kind of off, but we're finding it difficult to isolate what that thing is. But there's something like yawningly and terrifyingly fucking predictable about the energy of this card here. It's like, I don't want this that I have anymore, and I'm trying to extricate myself, I'm trying to release myself, but I seem to be coming up against everybody else's issues and feeling like I have to deal with those, or having felt like you had to be dealing with those, when all that you want is to be as far away from this shit as humanly fucking possible. Now, when we come into your current energy, we have the Five of Pentacles and the Seven of Wands, and we can talk about the Five of Pentacles in lots of ways. We can talk about it being, you know, a fear of loss, whether that's financial or emotional, spiritual, whatever, you know, a feeling of being left out in the cold. We can talk about it being an instability around the idea of your resources, or a fear of an instability around your resources. But actually, I think when you really get down to the true meat of this card, what it's talking about is whether or not you are actually meeting your own basic needs. And I came to this conclusion holistically after years of, you know, reading interpretations of the Five of Pentacles, particularly in this depiction, in this deck here, which said, oh, if only these two characters in the card could turn around and have a look and see the light of the church, the sanctuary behind them, then they would be safe and they'd be happy and they'd be well and they could have someone tend to their wounds and all that sort of stuff. And I looked at this card and I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. And let me show you why it's bullshit. Because it's a dark night. It's snowing. The church is lit up like a fucking Christmas tree. There's no way that there's anybody kind of walking around in the cold, in the dark, outside, in the snow, who cannot see the light of the church. And for me, there always felt like there was some aspect of having been cast out to cope on their own. Oh my God, there we go. Like, tell me they can't see that church light. Of course they can see that. Like, that's ridiculous. They've been cast out on their own. Now, there are ways for this to happen materially. There's ways for this to happen, literally physically, being, booted out of where you live, or, having support withdrawn from people who were looking after you while you were in a vulnerable state, that sort of thing. But from a spiritual perspective, our first concern must always be, are we looking after ourselves to the best of our ability? Are we in that constant state of growth and change and the pursuit of being better tomorrow than we are today and than we were yesterday? And so for me, the Five of Pentacles is saying, where have you not been taking sufficient care over your own needs first before attending to the needs of others? And I think that there are so many claims to your emotional energy, your emotional labour, that it's very difficult for you to work out what it is that you actually want. What we seem to have is a huge list of things that you don't want and don't really feel like you're able to withdraw from. Now, why this is important is because the Seven of Wands, it seems to be igniting some sort of fighting spirit in you, where you are not only correctly identifying, or at least beginning the process of identifying, where your basic needs are not being met in any given situation, but you can also see where the needs of others are depleting you and taking away things that you need for yourself. This Seven of Wands is like, no, I need to actually start paying attention to these things, and I need to start fighting for the things that I want. And it's a very interesting shift in tone between this over here, which almost seems like an intellectual movement because it is the Six of Swords, but it is somewhat hampered by these reversed emotional cards here. And then, the Queen of Swords doesn't really know what to think about it either. And we move over here, we've got two queens showing up for you, fighting for you, helping you. Aspects of your energy, certainly, but for some of you, they may even be helpful people who are coming in to assist you with this. Now, I'm going to talk about this from an energetic perspective because generally, that's the best catch-all. And I think it's probably more important to see it that way rather than sitting around and waiting for someone to come and assist you. But we've got the Queen of Wands and we've got the Queen of Pentacles. Right? So we've got Wands, we've got Pentacles. Where there is an issue, generally speaking, it is awesome to be able to have the kings or the queens of the suit where the issue is coming along to assist, to help unravel things, unknot things, and put them straight. So we have, actually, with the King of Wands here, we've got quite a lot of wand energy. We don't have a King of Pentacles, but I don't think there's a long-term plan necessarily that requires him to oversee it. The issue is here, it's subjective. The queens are the subjective aspect of the suit that they represent, right? The more passive aspect of it. For me, the queens make sense. They try and make sense of whatever suit they represent. So here, making sense of what you think. Over here, making sense of what you do and the actions that you take off the back of what you think is right or you feel to be right. The Queen of Pentacles is how you make sense of how you distribute your resources. Now, when I talk about resources, I am not simply talking about your money, but we are almost certainly bringing that in as an aspect. I'm talking about anything that you have that is capable of investment, your time, your care, your effort, your love, your attention, your energy generally. Like, where is your emotional labor going? Because it doesn't seem to be going on you, Pisces, or any of the things that you are trying to do for yourself. It feels to me like you've been kind of struggling for a little while, trying to sort of break free of lots of different situations that you realize are incongruent with the direction of travel. And yet you seem to be being dragged along laterally instead of actually properly facilitating that breaking freeness. And like I said, I think it is because you are just far too susceptible to the emotional leanings on you of other people. Now, to have these two very strong feminine archetypes here, one that deals with, confidence and courage and putting yourself out there and actually standing up for yourself, and another one who understands the importance of self-investment, self-care at the very least, coming together to bring the Fool right to your door. The gist that I'm getting of all of these cards together is that it is likely that you've been moving not backwards and forwards, but side to side for a little while, looking for an opening, looking for the gap, looking for your route out of where you are. But in the best tradition of all of these things, Pisces, the way out is through you. It's not that something external needs to change. It's something about the way that you're dealing with the issues that you have right in front of you that requires you to be bold about the way that you approach them. And that does include perhaps doing things differently to the way that you would usually do them. On this channel, we spend a lot of time looking at our own behaviors, looking at our own cycles, looking for the things that we don't see. And sometimes those things are so well screened away from us that we don't see them at all. Once we've seen them, generally, we're like, oh God, that was so fucking obvious. How did I miss that? And certainly if you're me, you end up beating yourself up about it for a while. I used to. I don't do that so much anymore. The issue here is you believing in what it is that you want to do enough that you will allow bits of you that have been historically and currently, presently, trying to slope out from underneath the situation without rocking the boat or disturbing anybody else too much. And sort of fully taking on board the fact that by your absence in this situation, boats will be rocked. And in order for you to get to where you need to be, those boats need to be rocked. The Fool is somebody who moves in hope and trust and faith and all of these wonderful things. And on perhaps the more pejorative side of the interpretation, we have the idea of naivety and perhaps a certain amount of recklessness, a certain amount of thoughtlessness. He takes risks because he doesn't understand the consequences. Now, I think you're trying to micromanage the consequences of your removal of self from a particular situation without realizing that, this isn't really something that you have any control over. Certainly not to the degree that you're trying to smooth things out ahead of time. All you seem to be doing really at this point is hamstringing yourself. And I wonder if, and I do feel this, I've just looked at the bottom of the deck and we've got the Sun card, whether this is all expanded to be something else in your head versus the reality of the situation as it will be once you actually start asserting what you need in any given situation, It's here. See, we've got the Two of Swords in the World, as if to beautifully illustrate exactly what I've just said. For me, the Two of Swords is the thing that we do not see. It's the things that are screened off from us psychologically. You'll notice there's an eclipse here, right? It's literally obscuring the light of the sun, which is what brings it's consciousness and whatnot, but it's a disinfectant to a situation. We just had the sun, but when I'm talking to you, the sun is obscured. And now you're trying to make decisions, you're trying to manage a situation, which frankly is operating without all of the information. And all of the information is not available to you because you're trying to micromanage a situation that actually has nothing to do with you, which is how other people respond to what it is that you're trying to do. Now, the World card being there represents the end of a cycle, and it's delightful that we see it here when we have the Fool right there. What I was trying to say before, I don't even know if I finished the thought, was that often we look around at situations, we go, well, you know, once this thing's finished, or once this person's got to this situation here, I'll be able to wriggle out and, you know, it'll all be fine. We look around for external reasons as to why it is that we can't get our idea, our movement off the ground. And 9.9 times out of 10, we are actually the thing that is obstructing ourselves. I can't tell you the number of times where I've tried to do exactly what you're doing here, right? Try and not rock the boat and just you know, gently pull myself away. When what was needed in the situation was for me to just state what I was doing and then do it, because nobody else has the right to tell me what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do in any given situation, you know. And the extent to which, I'm going to say we, because I've done this myself before, like we prop other people up. Ultimately, long term, you're not really doing anybody any favours in that sort of situation, and it's not your fucking responsibility, Pisces. Like, the end of the cycle that you're looking for, the out that you're looking for, actually comes by way of you standing up and saying, this is what I'm doing, and letting everybody else work the consequences of that out for themselves. Because if you've been artificially propping up other people for quite a long time, and I feel like a lot of you have been doing that, then the issue of you removing that artificial prop, it's not your concern, right? It's time for somebody else to start pulling their own weight. It's time for them to start exercising their own emotional labour and not yours. I do feel like there's a question of boundaries here, Pisces. There's always a question of boundaries, right? Because the people who will complain about you having boundaries up in the right place are the people that benefited from you having none before. So that should be a shibboleth. That should be something for you to watch for. But your responsibilities and your duties are to you and you alone. Now, obviously, if you have children, that changes, that shifts. But again, happy mum, happy kids. If you are not looking after yourself properly, how can you teach your children how to do the same? I do feel that very, very strongly. Obviously, you have to look after them as well. But our job here as parents is to create happy, independent, new humans who can go out there in the world and do amazing things, not who are crippled by an inability to move because they are too tuned in to what other people need from them. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, when we look at the rest of May, we've got the Lovers and we've got the King of Swords. And for me, it's not really a combination that I could think of that would have as strong a message of it's time for you to start making some very, very strong decisions about the kind of life that you want for yourself. You know, the Lovers card is all about manifestation. For me, actually, a more passive version of manifestation than you would see in the Magician card. The Magician is all about your will, you know, and kind of going like, I'm going to blend this with all of the aces on the table and I am going to create this particular thing. Abracadabra, right? Literally means I create as I speak. Now, The Lovers card is slightly different because we have these ideas of conscious co-creation and all that kind of thing. And the Lovers itself is about bringing people together. But in this situation, what you're not trying to do is hold everybody else up emotionally around you. What you're trying to get together with is the universe, who is interested in making sure that you achieve your potential, right? It's this kind of alignment, kind of slinging my ass into it there, right? It's this alignment with what the universe is trying to support you in. And the one thing that it wants for you is for you to be able to actively assert what it is that you need, and then both, well, not even both, then just do it, right? The King of Wands is always about just doing that thing. We've got the Strength card at the bottom of the deck here, which is indicating that there's some growth that's occurring for you in this process. And that would be, hella growth for you to be able to put yourself first. And we see it here again, right? We've got all of this Leo energy permeating right the way through the reading. But we've also got the King of Swords, which is Aquarius. So we've got that Leo-Aquarius axis going on here, right? Which is the combination of not just what I think and what I can visualize, but then what I do to bring that into a state of being. And the Lovers card reversed and the Three of Pentacles reversed is almost like what has to be done in order for you to do this. And I can see why you would be finding it difficult, because it runs in a different direction to the way that you have been programmed to move. So here, you need to make decisions about how you will best engage with your potential and what the universe wants from you and what you want as part of that dynamic here. But the Three of Pentacles is other people. It's what we're building with other people. And that needs to be broken down in some sort of way. Often this is a card of cooperation and collaboration, how we work with others in order to build something that will last for a long time, right? It's bigger than the sum of its parts. But I feel like that's been you your entire life. I've described Pisces often as the emotional glue that holds everybody together. And I do think that Pisces takes in a lot of other people's emotions and, fucking washes it. You're almost like a psychic washing machine, Pisces. And you wring out all of that dirt and that muck, and you release something better into the world. But it feels like there's still too many people who are influencing the decisions that you're making. I mean, the Lovers itself, even actually as a sideline interpretation, is a card that can speak of a choice. It was the original, I believe, the original name for that particular card. It depicted two women and a man, and he was obviously needing to pick between them or whatever, right? There's a question here of why you're putting up with what you don't want rather than actively choosing what you do want, and then making sure that all of the actions that you take thereafter are in support of what it is that you do want. May could be a month that sees you pulling away from people that you've been trying to prop up for a long time. And if that's true, then I think it's probably about time. I mean, literally both of these cards in their reversed positions speak of pulling away from people, right? If this is drawing together, then this is certainly pulling apart. Same here. If this is cooperation and collaboration, this is do you know what, this isn't actually for me, I'm going to go and do something else instead. But there's a lot of activity here in May, not just in getting really clear about what you think, but then making decisions off the back of it, but then backing it up with action here with the King of Wands and the Strength card here and the Strength card here. I mean, we're talking about some big growth because it's putting you into it's putting you into a really uncomfortable position, but that's where we have to be if we're going to grow. The comfortable position for you would be for you to be able to fade out slowly and people not recognize that you'd gone. And actually what the situation requires from you is that you almost very visibly exit the scene. Not because, oh my God, look, not because you need to make a big song and dance about it, but because that's what represents discomfort for you. And the discomfort that comes from everybody else thereafter, again, as I said, it's not your concern. It's not your job to fix it. There's the Magician. We have a second card of manifestation on the table now. And we have the Four of Cups with the King of Swords again at the bottom of the deck. I mean, I feel like, I don't want to say all of this is in your head, Pisces, because I don't think that it is. But I feel like there's a level of complexity here that you've kind of inputted into this situation that could be cleared almost instantly by you emulating the behavior of somebody who is really, really confident, right? And I'm not advocating for you to fake it until you make it or anything like that, right? But it feels like there are too many levels of complexity here that wouldn't necessarily be perceived by other signs who weren't quite so sensitive. And I'm not criticizing your sensitivities at all, but I am saying that I think that it's making it very difficult for you to be able to think clearly and act in pursuit of what it is that you are trying to manifest for yourself. And this is particularly important in situations where we are changing and growing and going after something bigger than we might have gone after before, because there's a requirement for us to grow into the kind of people who would go after those things. And at this point, it seems like what is here to close out the cycle for you is you standing up and going, okay, I'm ready to go now. I'm off. Goodbye. Have nice lives. I'm going to go do this thing over here, which seems to be the opposite of what it is that you've been trying to do for a while. Four of Cups in reverse for me is a card of gratitude. Quite simple. Just gratitude. But it feels like it's also highlighting that the emotional connection should be to self and what you're trying to manifest and the kind of person that you want to be. You know, if you've ever sat and admired in somebody else, their ability to be decisive, their ability to be assertive. In fact, if you've ever envied or admired in somebody else a particular attribute, you have that. It just needs to be exercised a little bit more. And the reason that I say that is because if that was not something that you had within your psyche, you wouldn't even notice it. It wouldn't register anywhere for you. So if you're recognizing it and going, God, I wish I could be just a little bit more assertive in this situation, then you have the ability to be assertive in this situation. It feels like there are changes that you're trying to make and you're getting stuck on this one point over and over again. And it's this one point that closes out the cycle and starts the new one. But you have to actively own putting yourself into an uncomfortable place to make that happen. And that act is the thing that makes you more likely to be able to pull off what you're trying to do in the first place. Does this make sense? I hope that this makes sense. Because whoever these people are, the people that the cards are telling you you really do need to crank down the emotional sensitivity towards, like they really don't feel like they're part of your path moving forwards. And I don't think there's necessarily... it's interesting that when I was talking about the World card and the Fool, I actually drew a lemniscate in the air. I don't know if you noticed that. I drew a lemniscate. We've got one here, and we've got one here too. And why is that important? Because you're an infinite being who's being held back by what other people want that they can't provide for themselves. I mean, when you look at it logically, it doesn't really make any sense. There are people that you need to pull away from. There are associations that need to be severed, certainly in the form that they are currently being held in order for you to move forwards in a meaningful way and get on this path of both alignment and manifestation. So is there a job that needs leaving? Is there a housemate that you haven't told yet you're intending to go travelling the world? You know, is there some sort of creative creative partnership that you need to come out from under? Is it family? Is it friends? That's interesting. So I have an issue with being far too sensitive to subtext, because this is the way that I was brought up, right? I was taught to be always trying to anticipate what certain people in my life needed ahead of time. It didn't matter what they said. I had to guess what they wanted, right? And it's something that I'm aware of, and it's something that I've done an awful lot of work on in the last few years. And I made a vow to myself back in 2018, that I would not respond to subtext anymore. And my exchange, my gift to the universe, is that I would attempt not to talk in subtext myself. So I would be much more articulate about what I actually needed. I would advocate for what I needed rather than trying to drop hints at people, because I didn't want to come up at it, in a kind of confrontational way. And I have to say, it's one of the best decisions that I ever made, and it's it's been very, very helpful for me. But I still maintain, low level in the background, this sensitivity to what somebody's saying but not saying. And it's so funny because it's come up quite a lot in the last couple of weeks for me. And so I've been maintaining what I call a happy obliviousness, which is probably a really weird way to say it, but like, I know exactly what you're trying to say, but you're not actually saying it. I know exactly the hints that you're dropping, but you're not saying anything outright. You're waiting for me to pick it up and then change everything that I'm going to do as a result. And I've adopted this new thing of happy oblivious. So I'm really happy about this thing, and I'm doing this thing, and I'm in my lane, and I'm not moving the goalposts on anyone, but I'm also not going to be held back from what I'm doing, because I'm very happy about what I'm doing. And I have to say, it's incredibly effective. Not being confrontational about anything, not being any of this, is just happy obliviousness. And I wonder if, Pisces, this is something that you might have a go at. Because I think it's interesting how many people will move out of your way when you stop responding to what they're not strong enough to say out loud. Or maybe because what they say out loud would be really fucking unreasonable, and even they know that, Most people are one-trick ponies, as I told a client of mine the other day. They're one-trick ponies. And once you start sidestepping ways in which you have been previously manipulated or influenced before, they really struggle to come up with anything new. They really do. I mean, you've changed, they don't. They often come back stronger and harder with more of the same, and you're like, oh God, now I can see it. I can't unsee it. I'm definitely not going to respond to it. It's an interesting month, Pisces, and one that is going to see you make a series of decisions that possibly at the beginning of the month you had no idea you would be in a position to make. Nothing changes apart from the way that you're thinking about this situation and the extent to which you're allowing yourself to feel or not feel what other people are trying to throw at you in a subtext kind of way, All right, I'm going to go to the extended now, so you're very welcome to join me over there if you would like to. We'll pull this apart a little bit more and see what's going on with this. If not, no shade. That's entirely up to you. Join me, don't join me. It's entirely your choice. But if you're not, I would say it's just a matter of kind of pulling up some courage from somewhere. And it's the courage to say you want something. Tell people you're going to do something. You know, that Neptune's at 29 degrees of Pisces at the moment, and I do think that that is kind of making everything a little bit fuzzy around the edges, to put it nicely. Maybe at this point where Neptune is at 29 degrees of Pisces, the kindest and most supportive thing that we can do is speak directly, rather than letting everything kind of float around, so people know exactly where they stand. Do you see what I mean? Okay, right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.